All right. So there are three ways to determine the union between two sets. So I'm first gonna talk about the sections that occur. Okay. So if you have, if you're referring to that section right there, A not B, you can say only A, right? That's some of the wording, the keywords you want to be looking for, or A but not B. That's another way of talking about that region right there. I have to be careful with highlighters because they bleed through here if I color everything in. But right, we're just talking about the elements in here. Okay, that's really what I'm just gonna keep it at that, right? So that's important to know. When you see the wording like that, the number doesn't go up here, okay, guys? It doesn't go up here. It goes actually straight in this crescent here. And the same thing for this other side. This would be only B. That's one of the wording you can think for. And you have to translate this to the context, right? Only in biology, or only like winter, or right, like you got to translate it to the context. This would be B, but not A. So it's the exact opposite of the other side. Okay. And so that's that section there. And then, of course, right down the middle, we have both A and B. That's basically, right? Like both, I don't know. I'm running, that one is probably the easiest one to identify. What color should I go with? I'm going to go with orange. Okay, so you've got, when it comes to the sets, when they combine, you've got three regions, okay? This, of course, would be empty if they're not joined. But for most word problems, you do have a joint scenario. Okay? And then you have your outliers, of course. In this particular case, the outliers would be called, and because we have sets A and B, this be A union B not, right? That's what we call the outliers. And if you want to have the number of, you can obviously just put an N in front of it. What else can I say here? I guess, I'm going to try something. You do whatever works best for you. But to get this here, you would essentially add, you would go green plus orange to get that number. I'm trying things, okay? And to get B, you would add, right, this section here, which I used purple for it, plus orange. So you got to understand that point, that the ones outside, the numbers outside would be students that like applied math, or are in, let's say they're in applied math, right? So that includes this big circle here. And it could be that some of those students are also in biology, right? It could be like that number out here doesn't guarantee that they are only in applied math, right? Same here. This would be students that are in biology, but it could be that some of them are also taking applied math, right? So that's the distinction between the only and the number outside there. I think we're pretty good here. So let me just give you again, I will give you various ways of basically a variation of pi here. So watch this. If you wanted to know, right, the number of elements that are in the union of the two sets, one way to find out, probably the easiest way to find out is you take your universal and you subtract A union B bar. These are my outliers, correct? If you took the universal and subtract the outliers, then you're left with the union. It's basically everything that's in those sets, all the elements combined. This is the quickest way of doing that. Next, another version of this would be n of A union B. This is the one you know. You take the elements of A, you add the elements of B, and you have to subtract the ones they share. You take away the area that is shared, otherwise you're double counting. If you add A and B, you got to subtract this because otherwise you're counting it twice. Okay? So that's your, and then the last one, this is a new one, okay? You ready for this one? If you pay attention, it shouldn't surprise you at all. What's union again? It's everything that's in both sets combined, okay? So watch how I'm going to do this. I'm going to add this section here, plus this section, plus that section. If I add these three unique sections, I do have the union as well. So here we go. A not B plus n of B not A plus n of A intersects B. You don't necessarily need this one, but watch, I'm adding everything, correct? There's no subtracting there. Maybe I'll use my highlighters to emphasize, right? The green is this. This is the green section. Then is my purple section. And then last but not least is just that orange piece in the middle. So this is another way of thinking of the, I guess, another way of thinking of your Venn diagrams and being able to solve using this, right? Using, these are all true, but sometimes maybe you might have all these sections, maybe you might just want to use this to figure out the union and whatnot. Okay. And maybe I'll just use the wording, I'll clarify the wording. This part right here, I will say number of elements that are in at least one of the sets. Say what? That's what union means. Like if you ever read the question, maybe I'll highlight the at least part. If you hear me say, or a question say, hey, how many people like at least or own at least a PVR, VCR, or high TV or whatever, if it says the at least, it means the union of all the sets that are there. So it would not be including the outliers. Always remember that you're not including the outliers when you're uniting, because the outliers are in the universal but not part of the sets. Fun stuff, eh? On a Friday. I hope this helps a little bit more situating yourselves in this. Anybody try? Anybody have a question about the homework in the textbook? I hope you tried a few in the textbook. I'm thinking, I'm just going to show you a couple. And you obviously don't have space to do this, and you would have done this somewhere on loose leaf, I'm guessing. But I'm just going to show you here real quick on page 174 a couple of scenarios that you might encounter. So let's do 15 on page 174 if you just watch. So 174, question 15. Just going to zoom up here. It says Jamal asked 32 people what type of television show they like. We did this already, didn't we? Yeah, this was in one of the worksheets, I believe. Let's try a different one. Let's do 173, question 9 here. 173, question 9. I'm going to change it. Right, so you get a scenario like that. 26 people at the gym. They were asked if they like to ski or swim. 5 people do not like to ski, do not like either sport, so those are your outliers. So you would start like this. Maybe sometimes all you have to do is get it started and see what happens, right? So you have ski and swim. That doesn't work really well, does it? So I'm going to call this ski and swim like that. It doesn't say only like to ski, right? It doesn't specify, it just says ski. So you would put the 19 here. Right? 14 people like to swim. It doesn't specify whether or not, right? It's only swimming, so you put that number there. Our universal is given. That's 26. And the 5 would go here. Now you can probably check, because especially if they give you these numbers, guys, if they only give you these numbers here, if you add that up, right, plus the outliers, you surpass 26. So you know for sure there's gonna be an overlap there. It's being double counted if you just add these numbers out here. Okay. So now when you have something like this, if you don't know any of these sections, use pi. Okay, that's the best way to do these ones. If you don't know any of these subsections here. So we know basically you got to go 26 minus 5. Right, that's got to be your starting point. Is going to be 19 plus 14 minus, we can call this section x here for now. Okay, we're just checking. So this is 21. And this is 33 minus x. You go minus 33 here, minus 33 there. And you've got 14. This is negative 14. Sorry, what am I saying here? 14, right? Yeah, negative 14. So divide both by negative 1. And so you get 14 like both. Okay, so now you know this. Once you know that middle section, you just go 19 minus 14, right? You get 5 there. And did I make a mistake, guys? Is this 12? No, sorry. Yeah, that is 12, right? My bad. See how I found out that this was going to be 0 here. Okay, so this is 12. 21 minus, there we go. So that's 12. It's supposed to be 12, so let's fix this. That would be 7, and this would be 2. And so if you add now these sections here, you should get to 26. Okay, that's always something you can check for. Make sure that these individual sections that you filled in add up to 26. Once you filled in your Venn diagram, all of these subsections here, you can answer anything they ask you, really. So I would always encourage you, fill in your Venn diagram as much as possible. And then if they ask, how many people only like skiing? Like they like skiing but not swimming? 7. How many people like both? 12. How many people only like to swim? 2, right? And so you can answer that easily that way. Question. Sometimes they ask how many people like at least one of these two things. If it asks that, the quickest way would be 26 minus 5, so 21 people. Or you just add up these 3 sections, right? Because if it's at least one of these, we want to know like anything that's in here. Because any of these subsections guarantees you that they like at least one of them. The 5 out here obviously don't like either of them. Okay, so that's just a little overview there. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop this here. This is basically just a review of